Ladies and gentlemen, how you guys doing? Hey, thank you for tuning in and welcome back once again to yet another vlog, man. Today I want us to talk about yet another French African speaking country which just broke our heart. But before we get started, man, this is proudly Motherland. And if this is your first time seeing this face, man, they call me Mr. J. I am a Motherland and I do live out in the diaspora and I do drop vlogs every now and then talking about issues from the continent of Africa. Yes, because I am a proud son of the soil. So I do give history from Africa to the world and the world to Africa. You feel me? So I would like you to do not forget to give us a thumbs up and think about being a member, because the more people we gather around this platform, the more we share and spread the word. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me get the elephant out of the room, man. Happy Easter. I know that in some parts of the world, man, wherever you watch Mr. J from, I know Easter already passed, but I'm still going to wish you a happy Easter to all my Catholics around the world, to all the Christians, and those who believe in this Easter season. I hope you had the best, you celebrated with your family, and you people had fun. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to talk about Togo. Yes, Togo is a beautiful French-speaking country out there in West Africa, man. And of course, a French colony. And no doubt in my mind that Togo regime is still actually a puppet to the French government. And this beautiful country has been on the serious difficulties because underdevelopment, unemployment, and people don't have the rights to do a whole lot of things in this beautiful country. And yes, if you wonder what I'm talking about, yes, this country has had one president for the past, I'm talking about one family ruling this country for the past 58 years. I'm talking about Fuare Nasingbe, who is the current president, and he took over his father, who passed in February 2005. Nasimbe Eyadema. I hope I'm pronouncing their names correct. If I'm not doing so, please do forgive my pronunciation, my people in Togo. Salut mes frères et sœurs, mes Togolais et à fond. We gotta talk about this issue, man. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this. It seems as if West Africa was a fertile land for the French when they came to Africa to, that conquest for land and territories. They looked specifically because that is where French colonies were concentrated. But well, not up to a couple of years ago where we had a couple of them telling them adios, hasta mañana, you feel me? And Togo is just one of those countries which has always kept close ties with Champs-Élysées, with Paris. And today or recently, man, the parliament in that country just declared and voted on a law, on a bill that is about to make it to the presidency for final enactment, because once the president vetoes and signs, it becomes law. And this vlog is about that law. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what it is about some of these French African countries where they think that one family or one person is the only person who is supposed to rule. This man has been in power since 2005, after the passing of his father. Now imagine this. Prior to him coming into power, his father was already in power for close to 38 years. So if you calculate 38 years plus 2005 to 2024, combined, that's about 58 years, close to 59 years, the same family. Kind of like what we saw happening in Gabon before the recent sham coup that happened in Gabon, because it's still in the family, because it's the cousin took over Gabon. But we are not talking about Gabon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Togo for a little bit. In Togo recently, man, members of parliament decided to vote a law. And this law is to say that We no longer need presidential elections to decide who our presidents will be. Let me repeat that. Parliamentarians in the Republic of Togo met and decided that they are going to vote on something, on a bill that is going to prohibit elections to take place in that beautiful country. Togo is a beautiful country, beautiful culture. Now, when we talk about voodooism, the religions of voodooism, yes, we can talk about Togo because they got good voodoo sources and good voodoo practitioners in that beautiful country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this. When you look at this law, you start to understand that the recent wind of change that is blowing through West Africa and amongst French-speaking colonies in Africa, it is starting to scare some of these puppets. Yes, it's starting to scare some of these puppets. And right after seeing what happened in Senegal, where the opposition and the youths rose massively to kick out the system, this man started panicking in his boots. Now, I don't know if the man in Cameroon is also panicking in his boots or the man in Ivory Coast is also panicking in his boots. But this definitely took this man into a panic rage. And of course, we all know that in House of Parliament, the ruling party always gets the majority of the seats. And this is no difference with Togo. Now, for the parliamentarians who are fellow African, fellow Togolese, to decide on a bill like this, it's really a big disappointment. It's really a big letdown. But it is a win to show you guys that the change that is happening, the change that started in Sahel region of Africa, it's spreading and it's making people panic. So the parliamentarians decided that henceforth, we do not need elections to decide our next president. Now, let me just say that this is nothing new. A couple of countries around the world are actually practicing this same type of thing where the House of Parliament decides and vote for the president. Of course, the one I can think about is India. And I think that New Zealand also does something like that, or Ireland, I think so. Don't call Mr. J on that, but you can get the clarification if you want to know more. But I think that to bring it to this stage in Africa when they are clearly seeing what is happening, the wind of change is happening, and who knows, maybe pressure came from Champs-Élysées, maybe pressure came from Paris, like, hey, you got to do something, because we are not sure, because they just flipped Senegal. I think that they will come for you next. So immediately this man and his cronies in politics, they decided to vote, pass a bill that, we no longer need this. And it breaks my heart to see that in a country where youth are fighting for a better future, in a country where youths make up majority of the population, they are supposed to have a say. In a country where we all think that civil rights, voting, universal suffrage for every person to decide to make a choice, this country is no longer going to have that. Citizens of this country is no longer going to have that opportunity. That is like taking the right from them, taking it away from them. You will not vote. We will decide who the next president is. And of course, when this is the situation, the president being in that position for all these decades, after taking over from his father, he definitely can bribe his way through staying in power until 2031. Think about it. 2005, 2031, 2024 is already the stretch of it. Because we know that in Togo, many things are going wrong in that beautiful country. A country with all good natural resources. But then the average citizen is suffering and dying because they cannot live a dignified life. All because one family decided that for the past 58 years, they are going to decide what is coming in and goes out of this country and who makes what. Now let me just say this, man. Let me talk about politics in Africa in general, and let me talk about politics in French-speaking Africa. Politics in French-speaking Africa has never ever been that of goodwill, because most people come into power in French-speaking African countries and they do not want to leave. We have history to tell us that. And to think that this is the country where a Pan-Africanist like Sylvanus Olympio came up, somebody who came up with a beautiful dream, and then see one family stay in power for 57 years, almost 58 years. Who knows if this current president doesn't have a son he's also trying to put in position when he's gone because his father died in office. Who knows if this is not the plan? But the fact that you guys are depriving people of the right to decide because they know that the youth's most definitely not going to vote for this man again for another term. So he played a quick one. Now this is going to go to the president to sign. And of course, knowing what is at foot, this man is going to sign this issue without even thinking twice. Like, hey, this is going to keep me in power for another couple of years. And then I might put my son in. This is what this man is going to do. Now let me throw this back at you. Do you think that it is okay for people to come into power in any country across Africa and decide that, you know what, I'm going to keep this for myself, I'm going to hand it over to my son, to my kids? Do you think that it's okay for one person in a country of over 10 million people to say that no, we are going to rule this ish, we are going to be in charge of this ish, we do not need anything? But of course we know it's all of greed. When you get into a position where you have access to vast amount of money, resources of a country, you get into a position where you can your decision matters life or death to the other people. Some people just don't want to leave, which is why we say African politicians are corrupt. They get in there, they don't want to leave. They want to stay there until something happens to them. I will throw this back at you before we end. Do you think that Togo is ripe for another coup d'etat? Do you think that the military in Togo need to do something before this bill is enacted by the president and becomes law? Do you think so? Do leave a comment. That is my time, ladies and gentlemen, and we are praying for the people in Togo, our brothers and sisters in Togo. Man, I know that activists have come up, oppositions, and people around the world are already castigating this move. You cannot stop people from deciding, especially the population that is made up of the youths, because the youths are becoming smarter across Africa. We just saw that in Senegal. So what is stopping them in other French-speaking African countries to rise up? But this is the time, man. The youths of the French-speaking African countries are rising up. And I do pray that that wind goes all over French-speaking Africa, man. We need to kick away these puppets who keep sticking and kissing the ass of the imperialist France just to maintain power. That's my time. You be good. I'm out of here. Peace.